Now, since we already designed and implement code for generating the word and actually guessing it properly and telling whether or not the guess is proper or not, we need to implement the code for whether or not the user has won. Basically, we have to define the winning conditions. So, as I told previously, the winning conditions are whether or not the word has blanks. If the word has no blanks, then the user has won. And if the user has no guesses remaining and there is at least one blank, then the user has lost. So let's rearrange the following pseudocode to understand how we can implement this. So basically we are initializing the turns to the length of the original word, and we will loop until the number of turns are greater than 0. We're going to ask the user for input, and we're going to display whether it's correct or not. So first we're going to check whether the string has no more blanks or not. So if the string doesn't have blanks anymore, then obviously the user has won. And then we have to break out of the loop, because after the user has won, the game is over. So this we will put over here. And after the user has won and broken out of the loop, and after defining the winning condition, what we have to do to define the losing condition is that we have to reduce the number of turns by 1. So let's say I finished my last turn, then my previous iteration would have the number of turns as 1. Let's say I keep this over here, then what would happen is the number of turns would still be 1 from the previous iteration without being reduced. So that's why I should keep it over here, thereby reducing my number of turns. And let's say I finished my last turn and I lost, so it's going to reduce the turn by 1. Basically previous iteration will have 1, it becomes 0, and since turns is 0, then the user has lost. So we have defined the losing condition and the winning condition over here. So we can see our pseudocode has been arranged properly. Let's implement this in the next subtask. Now in the final subtask of our Hangman project, we will be deciding who's the winner. So basically we saw in the previous pseudocode as to what will be the flow of the code or what are the winning conditions, and we will be implementing that in code over here. So this entire first part has been explained in the previous subtask. Let me just go through it once. Here we are importing the modules, here we are choosing the word at random, and here we are validating whether or not the user has given the correct guess. And now this is the new code over here. So we are defining the winning condition over here. So in this winning condition function, basically we'll take the updated word and turns as an input. So what is updated word over here? Updated word is nothing but the word which has been updated after each guess of the game. So let's say the user guesses the letter A, and A is present at the first letter of the word. Let's say the word is apple. Then the user has guessed the letter A, then A will be present at the start. Therefore, the updated word will contain A dash 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 dash. And we're going to check whether or not the updated word has a dash. If the updated word has a dash, then the user has not won yet. But if there are no dashes in the updated word, that means the user has won. So therefore, we'll be returning 1 to indicate that the user has won. Else if number of turns are equal to 0, which basically means the user has run out of turns, then the user has clearly lost. That is why we'll be returning 0 to indicate that the user has lost. And in the main function, we have just taken in name input and then just printed out hello name. So basically, what does time.sleep1 over here? Time.sleep basically makes the entire program stop for 1 whole second before continuing in running it. It basically makes the game feel a bit more natural. And once again, we've used it over here, which basically stops the program for 0.5 seconds. And then over here, we're going to call the choose word function to choose a random word. And then we'll set the number of turns as the length of the word, and we're going to initialize the guesses string as empty. Now while the user has more than 0 turns, that is while turns is greater than 0, we're going to print out how many turns the user has, and then we're going to call the word display function, which basically prints number of blanks as the number of letters of the word. And then we're going to take guess as an input from the user and convert it to lowercase over here. So over here we are basically preventing the user from giving the same guesses again. Let's say I guess A once and then I guess A again. Then it'll be just pointless. So instead we are going to make sure that if the user guesses again, it's not going to pass on to the function and exhaust the number of turns the user has. So basically, if guess is in guesses is basically the string which contains all the input the user has given, and guess is basically the current input given by the user. So if the current input given by the user is already present in the pool of all the inputs given by the user, we will be printing that you have already tried this letter and continue with the program. And if the particular letter is not present in the previous list of guessed letters, then we are going to add it to the guesses string. Basically, if you already haven't guessed a letter, you're just going to add it to the guesses string. That's basically what's happening over here. Now if the current letter guessed is not in the secret word, then we're going to print out wrong, try again. Now over here we are calling the word display function and storing it in the updated word variable. And over here we are calling the winning condition function to get to know whether or not the user has won already. Because unless the user has lost, we don't want to make the user play till the end. If the user has already won, the game shouldn't continue. That is why we are calling the winning condition function and storing it in flag. And if flag equal to 0, that is if the user has lost the game, you have to print out you lose. So we're going to print out the word was word, and then we're going to exit out of the loop. Or else if the user has won, then we're going to print out you won, and then we're going to print you guessed the secret word correctly, and then we're going to exit the loop. Or else in all other cases, we're going to print out you lose and the word was word. So this particular project was part of our course Python Projects for Beginners, where we have 11 different Python projects where beginners can get familiar with how Python works. And if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe go head over to CodeChef and have a look at this course or any other course which interests you. And if you're already on CodeChef, great job looking into the solution. Continue on to the next project. Thank you.